My name is Ian Walsh. This is Masters of the Market, joined with probably one of the top masters of the market in the city, but currently not as notorious for his probably real estate investing, which is where I heard of him, but more for his political career at this point. Allan Domb, Councilman Allan Domb, thank you so much for taking the time out to be here.
Thank you, Ian.
I actually bumped into you. No, your name has been around this city. There's like a few big names that I know, and I remember reaching out to a couple different guys, and yours was one of them that I was like, this is one of the top names to reach out to in the city. Now, my background being an investor, that was how I knew you. And then I started, like a lot of other investors, started to kind of learn about you in the political world. But I didn't really get to see you speak until you had done that Market Makers event that we had done. And to me, after seeing that, I said, I really want to sit down with this guy. Because I don't know, I wouldn't get up here and say this is my political agenda or not. But I thought a lot of the things that you discussed at that meeting were really solid plans for the direction of the city. But before we kind of get into that and kind of down that direction, I'd like to ask you, can you give some background on like where this all started for you, or the infamous, Councilman Allan Domb started in this business?
Well, I started in real estate business.
Okay.
In end of 1979, maybe before you were born, I'm not sure.
A little bit.
Okay, so I came here from Washington, D.C., didn't know anybody, and I came here actually in 1976, working for a time lock company, and making $15,000 a year.
Okay.
And tripled their business. They gave me a $10 a week raise. These were very thrifty owners. They were 84 and 81.
Okay.
But I worked really hard, worked 10, 12-hour days. And finally, in 1978, after 2 years of doing it, basically, 2.5, 3 years, I said, I need to make more than $15,500 a year.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
So I heard a guy on the radio named Jay Lamont on All About Real Estate. He happened to be the director of Temple's Real Estate Institute.
Sure.
And so I heard him talking on 95 AM WPEN
Okay.
Sunday morning, and I talked about Temple. I said, you know what, I'm going to try my hand at real estate. I always liked real estate, and I figured I would take courses there. Took the courses there. In fact, my first instructor was Skip Weber, who now owns Poley and Associates.
Okay.
And then I had Jay as an instructor, but took all the classes, passed my course requirements, and then became active in December of 79, January of 1980, working for Jane McDonough Realty, the Center City condo specialist. We had one location at that time, Academy House. That was it. And so from there, in 1982, I won the award in Philadelphia as the top realtor. But remember, back then, interest rates were 19 to 21%.
Sure.
Now, to put that in context, the property you sold back then for $250,000 had the same payment as the home you sell today for $1 million.
Sure.
Because of the power of interest rates.
Makes sense. My business is interest, so I understand it. That's a heck of a time to be in the game.
In 82, I won the award from the Philadelphia Board of Realtors. It was called at the time, not GPAR, as the top selling realtor in the city with $6.3 million. That was the top at that time. And in fact, it was at the Barclay Hotel. Larry Kane was the MC. This was 1982. And 1987, in 1983, I opened my own real estate office. 1987, the National Association of Realtors recognized me as the top realtor in the United States out of 1 million realtors. That continued until about 2004. Then they stopped it. And in 1999, I did my first development. But circling back in 1990, I got involved with the Board of Realtors in 1986, 85, through Joe Floor and others. And in 1990, at 34, I was the president of the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors. And then I did development, started in 1999, doing brokerage, by the way, all along the way. And by the way, also, when I started in real estate, besides Temple and Jay as a mentor, Jay Lamont, I bought a book called How I Sold $1 Million Worth of Real Estate, written in 1969. I still have this book. It's by Glenn Gardner. But all my ideas came out of this book to a degree. One of them said, you make a living selling real estate. You create wealth owning it. Mm-hmm. The other said, become a one street specialist. Learn one block better than anybody else so that people seek you out instead of you having to seek them out. So I became a condominium specialist, basically, so people hopefully would seek me out. So in 1999, I did my first development on Washington Square. Also did the Barclay at that time. Did more development, but was doing brokerage all along. Kept doing brokerage and kept buying real estate from 1980 all the way every year. And the key to investing, in my opinion, is to develop what's called a cookie cutter formula. Mm-hmm. Develop a process where every year you buy 1, 2, or 3 homes You put them on 15-year mortgages. I'm a big believer in 15-year mortgages, even though people say do 30. I always did 15-year. Now, I also had investors I sold to. I convinced to do 15-year. In the beginning, they hated me, but 15 years later, they loved me.
In order to deleverage yourself?
Deleverage, get net checks. And by the way, I'm not saying you spend the money, but you could then reinvest the money.
I understand.
So I always say in life, there's two things you can do with money. You can spend them on butter items, or you can invest. And the more of your dollars you put into butter, it melts away. What's butter? Clothes, trips,
cars,
eating out, cars, right? Things that devalue as soon as you buy them.
Sure.
The more money you put into investments early on, young, the more butter you can have later. So, for example, if I had made my first year in real estate, I made $34,000. My second year, I made about $82,000. This is 1981, which was good then.
Sure.
And in 1982, I made $135,000. I invested all $135,000. I lived on my $15,000.
That's great.
Salary from the other job.
That's incredible, actually.
So, and that would help me live on less and invest more. So, in '99, I did my first development with on Washington Square, and then the Barclay did more developments. Got involved with the Real Estate Association, which now is called GPAR, Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors. Called me, I think, in 2011 or 12, and said, "We'd like you to come back as future president in a year or two." And I served as president-elect under Barbara Capozzi. Then in 2013, I became president. 2014, I was president. In 2015, and then I saw an opportunity that maybe I could help Philadelphia as an outside business person coming into government and politics. And I did it because the city, remember, I came here with nothing, and the city was tremendously helpful to me, and I felt I owed it back to the city to try to help.
Okay.
So I ran for council in 2015. Fortunate I was able to win. I only had 4 endorsements, by the way. I had Philly Set Go, Chamber of Commerce, actually 5 endorsements. Governor Rendell, GPAR, and my mother. That was it.
And your mom.
That was it, 5 endorsements. So, and GPAR was very helpful to me.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be in this position today if it hadn't been for a phone call from Al Perry and Kirk Gasper back in 11 or 12, asking me to come back into the GPAR, basically command, basically, as president, because I would not have seen what was going on. I would have gone on my merry way, stayed in real estate. But I thank them for doing that, because I feel like this is a great thing to try to help the city get better. And my goal, by the way, as city councilman, while I'm a Democrat, I represent Democrats, Republicans, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, LGBTQ. I represent everyone who's a Philadelphian. If you're a Philadelphian, I'm for you. And I think we need to do that more in politics.
I think that's interesting you say that. I actually intentionally avoided, to try to avoid, and I did a good job of it, not knowing if you were Democrat or Republican today, because I was going to ask you at the end of the interview, because it didn't really matter after I saw you speak at the Market Makers event. I realized it didn't matter what color you wear. What you were saying was, I'm here for Philly. And there was a passion that came out that I don't think anybody anticipated at that event that came from you. And your background in investing is quite a story. It's amazing, right? Like, you've got 3 real estate cycles under your belt. So you've survived them all. You basically just told everybody, this is how you survive. You do a 15-year mortgage. You don't over leverage yourself. Leverage kills you in a cycle. You're conservative. You put your money away. We get your money to make money, right? You don't, all those butter items, the car you can buy today is, and as over the years, I've met few extremely successful people, and that fancy car is not an impressive item to them. So if you're trying to impress people, you're really just impressing, people that you probably aren't really interested in maybe in being in their circle. But nonetheless, as far as I think it's super good for the city to say, you have first of all, a guy that wants to give back. You have nothing to prove to anyone. You've already done it. So you're doing this, and you're also doing this through a methodology that I think you're not a grandiose, you're not a flashy guy by either design or nature. I don't know, but that's how you seem to have always been. But you've succeeded over the course of 30 years, and then right into your political career, which I'm sure that people thought the odds would be stacked against you, right? That'd be hard to get into. So I actually want to let's segue, if you don't mind, right into some of the bills and some of the things you've accomplished. As I walked in here, maybe Jeremy will catch a shot as we leave, but I mean, you have a board behind you. That is your to-do everyday checklist, which happens to be bills for the city to help this city. And as we saw in the Market Makers event, you the passion you came out for to change the city to help the schools, and I'm watching your head nod, and Richard Allers and Mike McCann all nodding, going, yes, we need to change the schools, because you build the schools, you build the city, it gives back to everybody. That's what we're trying to do here. So some of these bills, though, really lend themselves to common sense politics, and you would think, it sounds like I'm downplaying what you're doing, but the reality is you're going to go, why aren't all the other politicians around me okay with this stuff? Like, there's so much red tape, so many barriers to entry to get simple results for things that you're trying to do to make the city a better place. So if you don't mind, I'll dip into some of these bills.
Let me give some background.
Please do. Yeah, please do.
We have a city, Philadelphia, with 1,560,000 residents.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, 26% of our population's in poverty, 400,000 people. 181,000 are in deep poverty, less than $1,000 a month. Then we have 31% of the population, and thank God they're here, they're the eds and meds, that don't pay any real estate taxes and don't pay any BIRT, business income receipt taxes, okay? So you have 26% in poverty, 31% that pay no taxes. That leaves 43% of the population that pays all the taxes. And that's why some people feel that burden's pretty high. Our goal is to increase the tax-paying base to lighten the load on the 43% that are paying all the taxes.
Sure.
And if we don't do that, the 43% will go down to 42, 41, because they have choices that they can leave. What we want to do is expand that base, and the reason to expand the base is so we have the money to do the programs we need to do to help those in poverty. We need to help them, but we need the money first in order to help them.
Sure, and I think it's really important that what you just said, the 43 goes to 42, goes to 41. We have plenty of cities very close to Philadelphia, and if you're not careful, you just go an hour away and you're gone. You're to the next city. So, I think this city has a lot of potential, and it always has. And I'd say you probably would agree, over the last cycle, it's been really on an upswing. But there's certain things you also discussed in terms of like the 10-year tax abatement, and things that could really do damage to an economy quickly. And all of a sudden, that 43 goes to 42 faster than anybody anticipated. That gap between the poverty and the elite, or the 30% on the top end, becomes very wide.
So, Ian, just this week, we heard news, I think it was yesterday, that Amazon selected Arlington, Virginia, and Queens in New York.
That's right.
Okay? And so the bad news is they didn't select Philadelphia. The good news is that we're in the middle, so we will get some of that residual effect. Okay, but when you look at the top 20 cities in the country, in the last 10 years, we are the third lowest in job growth. Third lowest in job growth. And our belief, the reasons why, there's two major reasons why. Why don't companies come to Philadelphia, or why don't companies expand in Philadelphia? Two reasons. One, it's called the city wage tax. Two, the net income portion of the BIRT, business income receipts tax. Those are the two reasons. Companies don't come into the city because executives will have to pay 6.3% on their income, and in addition, give every employee an increase of 3.7 to 3.8% on the wage tax. What we need to do is we need to level the playing field, dramatically lower and eventually eliminate the net income portion of the BIRT taxes, and continue an aggressive reduction in the wage taxes. And if we do that, we will expand the base, which will give everything more asset value, everything will go up when you expand the base. In 1970, the city was 2.1 million people. Today it's 1,560,000. But where did the middle class go? The middle class left the city. Where'd they go? To the suburbs. And a big reason why, by the way, was the schools.
It was the schools. I mean, the things you just mentioned are, so again, that goes right back to common sense politics, right? Like, you're basically saying, if we leave this tax in place, that's the advertising banner to a business, right? So the business goes, which city do we want to be in? I'd rather just go down the street to Delaware, honestly. Like, why would you want to come into Philadelphia? Why would I not just want to be in the suburbs? So, like, it's a basic way to advertise to businesses to grow your economy, right? And why we aren't doing that is crazy to me. Like, all you're going to do is watch it crumble, and you're going to fight other politicians along the way that are going to jam it up, and then we're all going to look around in 20 years and be like, how do we go down to here? And you're going, stop it now.
But here's an important fact. The schools are better today than they were 5 or 10 years ago. We're now at 66 to 67% high school graduation. That's nowhere near where it should be, but it's up from 58%. So measuring from where it was. 14 years ago, the Pew Report stated that 91% of the young people whose kids were getting into kindergarten left the city. 91%. Today, it's 51%. So we went from 9% staying to 49% staying. That's amazing. It's over a 500% increase. So that's good. Last year, of the 66,000 people who left the city, 81% left who did not have children. So they're not leaving for the schools. They may be leaving for relocation, but many are leaving because of the burden of the taxes. I know many single people who moved to the suburbs because they gave themselves an instant raise, because they worked in the suburbs and did not want to pay the wage tax.
Sure, or forget about being in the industry you came from, which is, and that I'm in, is real estate. Just take real estate in the city, right? 2% aside. Or it just went up, or just
it's up. It's like 2.2 roughly.
I mean, what's the incentive to invest in the city, right? That's a lot of money to give away.
Here's the flip side. The incentive to invest in the city is that people in general, millennials and baby boomers, do want to live urban. They do not want to live in those big McMansions in the suburbs.
Yep.
And I will say that if you look at the appreciation rates of the urban areas of Philadelphia, they have done way better than any suburban market in this area. And I would challenge anyone to tell me the next 10 years, investing in the suburbs versus investing in the city will do better because people do want to live urban. Baby boomers, they don't need 4 or 5 bedrooms when they're by themselves. And many of them have other homes, by the way, so they're going to live urban. And millennials, they don't want that type of lifestyle either. They want to live urban. They'll only move because of taxes, and some will move because of schools and the cost of the schools. If they want to put them in private schools because they don't want to put their kids in Philadelphia in public schools. But what I will say is we've now visited over 56 schools because we donate my salary to schools every year. So we give away 20, 25 schools get small checks from us. So we're out there visiting the schools. The schools are way better than what the press reports. And the press is not going to report that the school's really good.
No, of course.
The press is going to report, if there's a tragedy in a school. But all these schools that are performing well and have great principals and great teachers, they're not going to report that.
Right.
By the way, there's 4 things that I want to talk about that we should focus on in our school system. One is personal financial literacy. Teaching financial literacy from pre-K to 12th grade.
Love that, yeah.
And the reason why it's important is that 89% of the kids in our public school system are in poverty. Can you imagine that? I mean, I went to public school. 9 out of 10 kids are in poverty. 91% have one parent, and that parent's probably working. So we need to teach financial literacy with that goal in mind. We have now paid for 66 public school teachers from pre-K to 12th grade to take financial literacy courses at the Federal Reserve at 6th and Market. We have a great asset called the Federal Reserve. They teach these financial literacy courses right here in Philadelphia.
I had no idea.
And so we have teachers, we pay for them to go to the classes, take the classes, and we have 66. We're looking for more. So if anyone listening knows public school teachers who want to take the classes, please call our office at 215-686-3414. We will pay for it. We just want them to learn.
That is a fantastic, that is the one thing, financially, anything you hear across, Bill Gates even says it, everybody says it, right? We need fiscal responsibility in the school system's taught. It is just not taught. And you're telling me there's a free class, essentially, for the teachers.
For the teachers to teach it. But here's the problem. Yeah. I don't blame anybody.
Right.
Understand, if you have 89% in poverty and 91% have one parent, and that parent is working to make ends meet, it is very tough for them to teach probably what many of us learned from our parents. And we have to help them in teaching that piece. So there's one school, by the way, in the Northeast called Hancock Elementary. I love this school. Every teacher from kindergarten to 5th grade took the financial literacy, one teacher in each grade took the financial literacy courses. So now that school is technically financially literacy certified. Oh,
I love it.
We should have every school financially literacy certified.
I'm 100% behind that. Anybody watching this, anybody that sees this, if you're not behind it, you shouldn't have kids in the city. Like, you shouldn't, because that is such a responsible thing to do.
Well, it shouldn't just be Philadelphia. It should be a requirement nationwide that we teach financial literacy. Everything I'm going to mention to you is not Philadelphia specific. The second piece is to teach technology from kindergarten to 12th grade, and specifically in high school coding. In that light, we have now we have people who are contributing dollars to different high schools. And we have Sylvester Mobley, it's called Coded by Kids. I think we have 24 high schools where we have 15 kids in the 10th grade learning coding. We follow them to the 11th and 12th, we're teaching them coding. So we have almost 360 kids learning coding. And it's a tremendous program. It costs $22,000 per high school. But for like $1,500 per kid for 3 years, you change their lives.
I can't. So I didn't know this about what you're saying right now. I had no idea that was a direction. I've always said to people, so the gap right now, and you're a very progressive thinker, but there's a gap if you notice that the workforce doesn't seem to be able to keep up with maybe, and this is just from my, I'm sure you might know the statistics better, but like there's a certain age where if you don't keep up with technology, you become obsolete to the workforce. It's true. You can't, the difference between a 20-year-old and maybe a 60-year-old having a conversation about basic computer stuff in their world is so far apart that they're now obsolete. So
the best example, Ian, is Amazon's decision not to come to Philadelphia. The reason they gave is because they didn't feel we'd have enough employees who would be skilled enough to work at Amazon.
No kidding. I didn't know that was
That was one of their major reasons. So if we had everyone in the public school system taking technology courses and taking all the coding, et cetera, we wouldn't have that problem. But here's the good news. A few weeks ago, the public school system under Dr. Haidt, I think, recognized the value of what we're doing. And I think they're going to have 5 or 6 high schools where they're going to adopt courses and actually putting them into the curriculum. And I talked to Dr. Haidt about expanding that. So I believe he's on board. We need to do that in every school.
Agreed. Agreed. Or are you going to leave kids behind? They're not going to stand a chance. So what's point 3? Because I like 1 and 2. Yeah.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
Point 3 is to teach, you'll like 3 too, by the way.
Okay.
Point 3 is to teach entrepreneurship.
Okay, perfect.
There's 2 ways out of poverty. Education, which can take 10, 15 years, or entrepreneurship, which is really quick. And so we need to teach people how to be entrepreneurs. And a lot of these kids already know, but they're maybe in some cases, they've been focused in the wrong areas. We need to redirect them into the areas of entrepreneurship we want that are the right areas. But their instincts are excellent, so we need to teach entrepreneurship, especially in high school. We need to talk about it in the schools. We need to talk about it in the 7th and 8th grade. And by teaching entrepreneurship, it goes to my 4th idea, which is to adopt the Cristo Rey program. I don't know if you know Cristo Rey.
I don't.
It's a private school, high school, 9th to 12th grade, for families with kids, basically families in poverty. $32,000 to $34,000 income, family of 4. Over half to 60% of the kids don't have fathers.
Okay.
10 to 20% don't have fathers or mothers and are living with grandparents, aunts, or uncles. These are kids who've come from very, very challenged lives, very challenged. Yet they get no city, state, or federal money. They get $0. It's called Cristo Rey.
They're up against the odds.
Okay, Cristo Rey. There's 25 Cristo Reys in the country. Cristo Rey means Christ is King. But here's the concept of the school. Every student must work 1 day a week. So in 9th grade, they work 1 day a week at a job. In 10th grade, they work 1 day a week at a job, 11th and 12th. Now, how does the school fund? The school is funded by businesses. We are fortunate and blessed that businesses in Philadelphia invest $35,000 a year and receive 4 student workers who cover Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and alternate on Fridays. And besides them getting workers, what they're also doing is they're helping young children achieve
great relationship.
And by the way, the statistics are mind-blowing when you look at the numbers from Cristo Rey.
Yeah, it's a fantastic relationship.
Public school system graduates 66 to 67, 68%. Cristo Rey last year graduated 92%, and 100% of these kids went on to college. Now that speaks volumes for the interaction of business with children. Okay,
100%.
100% went on to college.
Wow. Okay.
Now here's the piece why. I've had kids come to me in the 9th grade. I have 4 kids at my real estate office. We have 4 kids in the council office. In the real estate office, maybe a year or 2 ago, we had some kids come to us. I've never been in an elevator before. I've never been to a restaurant before.
Wow.
So it's the exposure of being, and the social exposure of being around people who are working, that is tremendous for these kids. Tremendous. So my point to the school district is they have the money. They don't need to go to companies to raise the money. And by the way, Comcast has 10 jobs. They pay like $350,000 a year, and they get 40 kids at Comcast. So we have some great companies that support these programs. But the public school system should be doing this in selected high schools where they put the kids in for 1 day a week in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And instead of sitting in a classroom, have them have real work experience. I guarantee you the real work experience, even if they don't get paid, that's more valuable than sitting in a classroom.
100%.
They could be with you. You could have
Sure.
Real estate offices could, anyone, law firms, hospitals, whatever. Everyone could have kids And that interaction is invaluable. That's not just for Philadelphia. That should be nationwide.
So your thinking is incredibly progressive. Let me maybe just ask you a personal question. You are focused, driven, and extremely thought out in what you're doing. How much? So the checkboard behind you has a lot of checks, meaning you're getting a lot of bills passed, and we were just talking about
we just passed the bill today.
Today, right? Yeah. Which I'd love to talk about because I like the basis of what that bill is to begin with. It was, getting out of the way of red tape, right? Let's make this better. So, but do you feel that what your efforts are personally really do progress? Do you feel like you get traction in your thoughts? Like, do you feel that what you're trying to do is actually moving things forward, or do you feel like the political world kind of stunts you a lot? Or do you feel like, hey, we're moving in the right direction. This is working. Let's go.
So we've passed 8 or 9 bills so far.
Sure.
Which I'm told is pretty good for a freshman in the 3 years. And in addition to that, I feel good we've trained 66 teachers in financial literacy. I feel good we have 360 kids who are changing their lives. And that's not 10,000, okay? But it's a start. And so in those areas, I feel really good. As far as the bills we've passed, I think I can go over them with you, but I think they will have major impacts with the city going forward. Now, the fiscal impact study, for those of you, your listeners, it already probably impacted them. Because here's what happened. We were faced with a construction tax, a 1% construction tax. And the fiscal impact bill that we passed over a year ago basically says that any council person can raise their hand and say, I'd like a fiscal analysis on that legislation. Yeah. Okay? By the way, it should be a requirement. We shouldn't have to raise our hand. It should be required with every bill. But right now we have to raise our hand and ask for it. Mm-hmm. Councilman Bobby Heenan and myself, on the 1% construction tax on all abated properties, raised our hands and said we'd like a fiscal impact statement. The statement came back from the administration stating if this bill is passed in the next 5 years, it will cost the city $31.8 million. Now, how do you pass a bill that's going to cost you $31.8 million?
If you didn't ask, was it just going to happen?
We wouldn't have known those numbers.
Wow. That's wild.
So now, even having said that, and having put on every council person's desk that information, the bill passed out of council 9 yeses to 8 noes. But it's one of the closest bills we've had. So it still passed through council.
How is that the better option? I'm not following. Like what was the pro? Would everybody say, hey, this is a better option? I'd rather lose $31 million over the next 5 years. What was the other option?
I don't know that answer. All I can tell you is that from my perspective of the simple math, it did not make real sense.
No common sense there, right?
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I can't answer that.
Understood.
Okay. But I can say that the mayor did not negotiate that. That bill was not passed. He didn't sign it. And instead, for the programs that we needed the money for, it's coming out of the general fund. So I think from the mayor's perspective, he was faced with his own administration did an analysis that said this is going to cost $31.8 million. And I think it would be very tough to sign that bill knowing it costs $31.8 million. So to his credit, the programs funding the Housing Trust Fund, those are good programs. Helping people fix up their homes for $5,000 and $10,000.
Sure.
Those are great programs compared to building affordable houses for $418,000. You know how many homes you can fix for $10,000 versus $418,000?
I remember reading your article on that, and when everybody looked at that number, it is a number that all the investors know now. They go, "You got to be kidding me on that number."
It's like 41 houses,
crazy,
versus 1.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So, to the credit of the administration and council, those programs are happening, but it was taken from the general fund.
Understood. So
that fiscal impact study caused that to occur.
That's what caused it to occur. That was one of the bills I had written down. I picked out a few, and that was an interesting one. And as Aaron had mentioned, that today you guys had that amendment that actually came through with you guys. So
I'm going to give you another one that's an interesting story for real estate people, because they'll appreciate this.
Yeah.
So maybe a year and a half ago, I don't remember the exact timing. Maybe it was longer. Maybe it was a year and a half ago. I get called to a meeting that instead of going to 46th and Market for the police station, we're going to go to North Broad Street.
Okay.
And buy the Inquirer building. So I had several questions. How much are we paying? Where's the appraisal? What's going on? Where's the numbers? Finally get all the numbers. We're paying $49 million, plus the seller's getting $40 million in tax credits. And I'm saying to myself, $89 million? No, I know a little about real estate. I don't think that building is worth $89 million.
Aggressive.
Right.
It's aggressive.
I said, where's the appraisal? No appraisal. I said, in my mind, based on the location and everything else, it might be worth, on a good day, by the way, the seller paid a few years ago $22 million. It might be worth 30, 35, or maybe 40 tops. Tops, not 89. Okay. So actually, what the original price was 49 million plus 40 million of tax. We get 89 million. So, short story, I got a little involved in negotiations on that transaction with the seller, and we got the price adjusted down by $10 million. Now, this next piece is going to go to short-term thinking versus long-term thinking in government. I also negotiated, and your audience is one of the few that will understand what I'm going to say. I negotiated the seller to provide a buy down of the 19-year fixed rate loan at 3.75, fully amortizing 19 years. Because in our documents, we had to have a 19-year loan. So 3.75 fixed for 19 years.
Sure.
That's a good loan.
Sign me
right?
up. Yeah, I'm in.
Right.
I'm in.
It would cost the seller X amount of dollars to obtain that loan in that market at the time because the market was like 4%.
Wow.
So I figured I couldn't get it in price. I would get it in terms. Okay. Those are your two. You know, that's where you can go.
Yep.
And so we passed the bill based on that. But there was a little paragraph at the end of the bill that basically said at the finance director's discretion, they don't have to take the financing.
Okay.
The day of closing, I found out the city didn't take the financing. I was very disappointed. And I was told the reason why is because it would cost us about $3 million or so more per year because of the 19-year amortization.
Okay.
So my argument to that, because I'm thinking long term, I don't think of the next election.
Sure.
Okay? I'm thinking in 19 years from now, if we had taken the loan I recommended, the people around here would say, hey, the police station's paid off. Those guys did a good job back then. Okay. Instead, we took an adjustable rate loan. It'll come due for 4.08%.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you of all people appreciate this.
Oh, no.
Because
Yeah.
you know the mortgage business.
Oh,
okay?
no. Yeah.
We took adjustable. In 9 years, it comes due, or 8 years from now. And the rates will probably be 6.5% or 7%.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll have to go into the market and refinance it. And instead of paying $3 million a year more over 19 years, which was $57 million total, we'll probably pay $250 to $300 million more over time.
So just something triggered in my brain right now with the Market Maker event. You know, Richard Aller has quite a few properties around the country, and he said one of his most fundamental things that he looks at is a fixed rate on his assets. And you basically just tried to do that for the city. And they say, give me the adjustable rate. I mean, adjustable rates, I got into the business 11 years ago. So like the whole ARM situation is like, that was part of what killed us at the top of a cycle. So we're just getting slotted right back into it in this deal. I mean, maybe the people that did it didn't understand the damage that could do. But, you know, again, that's common sense that take that 375, which is really good to begin with. Like, why would you not take that?
It's a great rate. Fixed for 19 years.
That's crazy. So
let me give another bill that we passed. It's a minor
Sure.
bill, but it corrects something that was going on in the city.
Mm-hmm.
When you own commercial real estate and the city raises your real estate taxes, let's say they raise them in March of 2018, okay? You would have to pay an increase in the use and occupancy as of July 1st of 18. But you wouldn't pay the increased real estate taxes until January 1 of 19. Mm-hmm. Which seemed to be unfair. Why would you pay the increase in UNO 6 months before the actual real estate taxes are due? That's like not right. Mm. We passed the bill fixing the date of use and occupancy to the same date as when you pay the increase. So we pushed everything 6 months.
So I had that written down. That was Bill 180139. I needed to understand what you did there, and that was it. And the other one that you were just mentioning was actually 180011, which was the required appraisal. I think you were alluding to in that prior one.
Yes.
Okay, so those are the ones I picked. You're right, because those are the ones as an investor I picked out and said these are the ones that make sense.
But here's the other piece. Those people who are in real estate can appreciate this or are listening. I don't view my role here just as being someone who comes out of real estate. I view my role as being someone who cares about the future of the city in all areas, not just real estate, not just in finances, but also in the quality of life of the city for everyone. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we did do back in April, by the way, you need a healthy city to do anything. You need a healthy city to have restaurants. You need a healthy city to have law firms. You need a healthy city for education, eds and meds. You need it for everything to have a healthy city. And that should be every real estate person's goal or business person's goal or individual's goal. You need a healthy city. In that light, back in April, we called attention to, early on in budget hearings in council, that there was a $33 million unaccounted for monies not accounted for in our consolidated cash account, the account that all the taxes are deposited into, $33 million. And we asked for an explanation on that.
Petty cash account, so to say?
You could say $33 million, but it wasn't. We're not saying it was missing.
Yeah.
We were saying it was unaccounted for.
Okay.
We brought light to that back in April.
Okay.
We also brought light to the fact that there were 7 accounts in the city that were not reconciled, balanced, some for up to 7 years.
Oh, no.
Like the employee payroll account, which today has a $1.7 billion goes in every year, $1.7 billion goes out every year, had not been reconciled for 7 years.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a lot of money. It's $3.4 billion a year times 7. You can do the math, but it's like $24 billion.
You don't want to miss a decimal point there.
Just in that one account. The
Right.
total unreconciled was close to $82 billion when you counted the deposits and the withdrawals.
Wow.
And our point was this: we're not saying anything's missing, but what we are saying is if we're supposed to be the steward of taxpayer dollars, okay, I didn't see how we could ask for any increases in taxes until we reconciled or balanced the existing accounts.
Because you don't know the numbers. You're guessing.
I mean, individually, you reconcile or balance your account every month.
Right.
This is the city of Philadelphia that did do some accounts for 7 years, some accounts for 3 years. The consolidated cash account where the $33 million was unaccounted for had not been reconciled for 3 years. This is an account that accepts real estate taxes for the city, accepts city wage taxes, use and occupancy, soda tax. Every tax goes into this account, not reconciled for 3 years. And by the way, I don't blame the administration.
Right.
This had gone on for beyond the administration's role.
It's a huge undertaking to reconcile that at that point, too.
This went on for 7 years. This was
Yeah.
several people were involved. And my point is this: we should have had if you're running a business and you allowed someone not to reconcile your books for 7 years,
You're not really running a business at that point.
and I don't think they would still be there.
You're not going to be there.
Right.
You're not going to be there. That's, I mean, you know what it is from my perspective. You know, we get as a voter or as a supporter, we get to vicariously live through our vote. And the fact that I get to have this interview with you goes, if this doesn't offer up people a sense of like gratification that their vote meant something, because you're driven to do this. You're doing all the stuff that if an individual had the opportunity or believed in themselves enough to say, I want to do this in the political world, you're doing that for us.
I would say that the people that are listening, I'm just doing what they would do if they were here.
That's what
just common
you get
sense.
to be. You get to be like a hero with the tie on, right? So,
Yeah, but the reconciliation, what we try to do is identify a problem, discuss the problem, and then put legislation in place to prevent the problem from
happening again.
So we put in a bill, a reconciliation bill, that requires the administration on a monthly basis going forward as of November 12th to provide to us on a monthly basis every account that's reconciled, not reconciled, what's outstanding, so we know what's going on.
That's fantastic. I mean,
That's the reconciliation bill.
That was the reconciliation. Okay, I remember looking through that. I wasn't quite sure what it was. That, quite frankly, that one probably is the top bill that matters the most, right? Because everything stems from there now. You need to know where the dollars are going, who's accountable for them. If you don't have that, everything else is a crapshoot, right? You don't know. So that's good.
Let me talk about another bill we put in
Please
place
do.
and something that's very important to me. It's called the Earned Income Tax Credit.
Okay.
For those of people listening, the Earned Income Tax Credit is a federal program for people who are earning $7.25 an hour up to about $23 an hour.
Okay.
Now, if you don't have any children under the age of 17, the maximum you can receive from the federal government is $500 roughly.
Okay.
But if you're a single parent earning $44,000 or less with 2 kids under the age of 17, or a couple at $51,000 or less with 2 children under the age of 17, you can receive checks up to $6,000 from the federal government.
Okay.
And you can file back 3 additional years. And I bring this up because people in those categories have left consistently $100 million on the table in Washington. And we have 40,000 people who qualify who don't file for this money. So if there was a message that the people take from our interview today that I wanted to take is get the word out.
Okay.
Earned Income Tax Credit. So you can not only file back for this year, $6,000, you can file back for 3 additional years. So someone could get $24,000. So if you know somebody who's a single parent, $44,000 of income or less with 2 kids under the age of 17, or a couple, $51,000 of income, 2 kids under the age of 17, they can file for the Earned Income Tax Credit. It's a federal program.
I didn't know that. And we'll make sure that any of the links in here that are correlated to your bills, I will make sure that they're in the release of the video.
Now, there's an example that we all can promote. We leave consistently $100 million of federal money on the table in Washington, D.C. that can help 40,000 of our population. We have 400,000 people in poverty. 10% can be held by this federal program. It cost us nothing.
Cost
By the way,
nothing.
it did cost us. Because in your federal withholding tax, that's where the money's deducted from.
Oh, really? So we've already paid for it.
We've already paid for it. We want to make sure it goes back to the residents.
Which would be a great use of it. I'd have no problem that that was, that's fantastic.
It's free money.
It's free money.
It's free money.
Back in the city. So let me leave with this.
Well, let me tie with that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I didn't mean
okay.
to. Yeah, go ahead.
So that was the problem. We put a bill in place called the Earned Income Tax Credit Ordinance that requires companies with over 20 employees to inform them about the EITC. So they have to give notices out. What should really happen is either payroll companies should be required to do it, we're looking into that, or the IRS, which we can't force, but if we get to the president, the IRS, in my opinion, has all the information. All they have to do is send a notice out. They could send a notice to me when they get my tax return and says, Dear Allan, based on your income, based on your 2 kids under 17, you could be eligible for the Earned Income Tax Credit and receive up to $6,000 per year.
Sure, just a notification.
That's it, and then people would file.
That's a simple notification. Simple answer, common sense. So I could talk to you all day. You just say a lot of things that resonate, and it makes me feel good that there's somebody in this seat doing this. So
I'll give you one more, then I'll let you go.
Please do. Yeah. No, do as many as you like. I can sit here all afternoon. Whatever you want to do.
All right. Salvation Army disaster, 22nd and Market.
Okay.
2 contractors who worked on that project owe the city taxes. And Dave Perry, our commissioner of licensing and inspection, who does a great job, okay, told me that usually the people who owe the city money and taxes are the same people who are not great at following the rules of L&I. They have a lot of violations.
Okay, they correlate.
Right. So the 2 contractors who worked on that disaster where people died owed the city money. We passed a bill requiring anyone who pulls a permit to have a tax clearance certificate so that if they want to do work in the city, your taxes need to be paid up. It's like anyone would do in business. We're not going to keep selling products to somebody who owes you money. I mean, after the 2nd or 4th or 10th time, we finally have to say, you know what, maybe you should pay us before you take on more.
That makes sense.
So now you have to have a tax clearance certificate in order to pull a permit in the city.
Perfect, and that makes sense. And you know what, I understand why. It's not just some bogus charge. There's a correlation to why this is necessary. I think as individuals, some people are like, why do we even have this tax? Or why do we have that tax? But what you're saying is, what you just explained to me was a very easy way to understand why this is in place. It's not just because we want your money. It's because we're preventing a bad situation from happening.
That's right.
That makes a lot of sense. So what else do you have to talk about? You tell me.
So let's talk about, because most of your people are real estate.
Yeah. What the funny thing is, I really enjoyed you at the Market Makers event because of what you just said. It's not just about real estate. Yes, my most of the base is real estate, but you were so passionate about the city that we all live and breathe every day. So I'm totally up for, and I'm sure anybody watching this is going to be totally up for whatever you would like to continue to talk about. So continue with that.
Here's the positive things going on in our city.
Okay.
We're the most affordable of the top 20 cities in the country for housing.
Okay.
Our average home price is $142,000. I mean, no city is in that category. None. San Francisco is $750,000 to $800,000.
That's crazy. I know.
So we're at 142.
Yeah.
We had 100,000 millennials move here in the last 10 years. We have tremendous access to New York and Washington and resorts like the Jersey Shore. Okay. So very, very convenient location. And I will say this, millennials and baby boomers, they want to live urban.
It's true.
They want to live urban.
It's true. It's convenience. They love convenience.
They want that lifestyle. And I think it's because of technology.
I agree.
I think a lot of millennials are maybe working on their computer or whatever during the day, not socializing. And at night, whether it's the coffee shops or yoga or spinning or whatever, restaurants, they want that socialization. They don't want to eat by themselves. When I was growing up, it sounds like I'm really old, and I am, but when I was growing up, we would go out to dinner once every 3 months. I grew up very modestly.
Sure.
For a 2-bedroom, 800 square foot apartment, the rent was $100 a month.
Sure.
We'd go out once every 3 months on a special occasion. Did we go to my grandparents' house for dinner? Yes. Did we go to my aunts or uncles? Yes. Did my mother cook? Yes. But it was once every 3 months. How many times do you go out to eat now?
It's common.
5 times a week?
Every other day, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's totally different. Totally different.
Very different.
But that's also today, that's the socialization. You meet people for coffee. You don't meet them in your office. You meet them somewhere for coffee. Let's have a cup of coffee. I'll meet you there.
Sure.
That's the socialization.
It's speed. It's convenience. All of that is exactly what you said, generated by technology, which comes back to all the way to the beginning of the interview, which is starts in the school systems. Like, don't fight where we're going.
Right.
Embrace it. Help it. And starts with, and then understanding financials. Can you go out to dinner every other night? Is that affordable for you? Is that within your means? But physically, you have to understand that in a school system, is this within my means? Do I have the technology to live under these circumstances?
So the growth opportunity we have for Philadelphia is really in that technology space, because 1 out of 4 jobs in the last 10 years in Philadelphia were tech or tech-based.
Okay.
1 out of 3 jobs in tech do not require a college degree. That's powerful. 1 out of 3 don't require college. And the average income in tech is $39,000 higher than any other field. And the best that I love about it is that the economic job multiplier. So for every job in tech, we create 5 more jobs. It's 5 to 1. Every job at the port, it's 1.6, not even another job. Tech is 5 to 1.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a huge economic job multiplier. So for Philadelphia, tech is a big part of our future.
I think it should be, and every city should be racing towards it. Like if you're not racing towards it, it's the race to the moon, right? Is it Russia or United States? If you're not there, you're gone. You're not, So I'm a huge advocate of technology. I think we're going to see it from the real estate investment perspective and every type of marketing. I actually think we see a transition right now of the flow of money and wealth from. You probably grew up in the days, and there still exists, but like postcards and newspapers and so forth. And all of a sudden you see this transition right now where social media, which is what this will be seen on, has a huge pull into the people that actually are starting to acquire the wealth and the money. So what's happening is baby boomer generation and older start to pass on their wealth, and then your new expendable income becomes millennials. And where do they get their information from, right? It's driven by the people that are in front of technology. So like if you fight that, you're going to be, you're fighting the ability to grow is what you're doing.
It's funny you say that, Ian. When I first moved here in 1976, the Inquirer was on strike. So there's no newspaper to find an apartment. I had to go to the Yellow Pages to look up apartment buildings.
It changed your marketing campaign as a realtor?
where I could find a place to live.
That's crazy. And that's you have to get behind what you're saying about technology. If you fight it.
But I will say this, in real estate, for those who are professionals, there's high tech, there's also very high touch.
Agreed. We call it online, offline business, right? Yeah, both now. And you got to be in tune with both, because you lose the human element. It can hurt.
Because I will say this, in anything you sell, you must sell yourself first, sell your company second, and then they will buy your product.
I like that.
And if you don't do it in that order, they're not going to buy your product. If they don't trust you, your company, they're not buying from you.
I like that. You can't
first company, second product, third.
Technology, as far as we can see, until AI takes over all of us, is it's a facilitator to the person. It's not the other way around. The person's the facilitator. So what you're saying is this facilitates the meeting and the sale and so forth. Right. You can't lose concept of that. It's pretty easy. And this, honestly, it sounds easy, but in this day and age,
there are now restaurants. I remember seeing this place called Martha's. Have you been to Martha's? So Martha's is in East Kensington, on York Street. They have no menus, so they have projectors on the board. And if you can't see the projector, it can pop up on your iPhone.
Okay.
All right. So you talk about technology.
Let's go. Yeah.
There's a great example of how technology.
That's fantastic.
Married into the restaurant business.
Right, but ultimately you're still in the experience of the restaurant. They're just integrating as a facilitating piece of the puzzle. So, is there anything that you'd want to leave people watching this with like something to resonate with you? Maybe they don't know about you. Maybe there's a lot I didn't know about you that really made me want to sit down and have this interview. So I don't know if there's anything maybe people don't know about you, or what's next for you, or anything like that.
I will say this: for those in the real estate profession, they help people every day. For those in government, we do the exact same thing. There's no difference. So anyone who's in the real estate profession thinking about going into government, they should consider it, because there's no difference between government and real estate. You're helping people. And if you enjoy helping people, you will enjoy real estate or government. It's the same skill set.
Really?
It take a little longer in government, but you're helping people. You have to have that drive to want to help people.
Understood.
And I will say this about real estate. It's 49% technical and 51% hospitality, and so is government. In other words, you have to know your job, but you can know your job really well. If you don't have the hospitality side, it's not going to happen.
Wow. Okay. That is literally never heard that before. So that's interesting. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Ian.
You're a fantastic person. So we'll wrap it up there.